Greetings, this is Monado Boy. If you're watching this, that means you're new to my channel because this is my first video. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy. In this video, I'll be recounting my time over the last year of intentionally completing my backlog. I'll share some brief thoughts about each game I played and some key takeaways from my first year of this project. Like many who have begun this journey, I was inspired by Daryl Talks Games and his backlog video. The title of this video is slightly misleading because I began this whole process in the beginning of 2024, or more accurately, over my Christmas break when I played Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade. Most of this video, however, will be focused on October 2024 to October 2025. Throughout 2024, I tracked my progress using a spreadsheet. This worked pretty well, but I didn't complete very many games. My 2024 progress looks like this. I completed these games, shelved these for later, abandoned these, and I've kept these games on the back burner for whenever I feel like returning. This last category probably sounds a lot like shelving, but to me the distinction is that for a shelved game, I will likely start over from the beginning, whereas a back burner game I can always pick back up where I left off with minimal friction. So, with 2024 mostly out of the way, I did end up buying a PC for my brother in September of that year. After a slight bit of repair work, I was up and running in October. This is when my backlog journey really kicked into high gear, because I was able to start playing some of the games I had been wanting to for years, even decades at this point. The first game I wanted to tackle was The Witcher 3. Having heard so much praise for nearly a decade, I knew going in that I was in for a treat. The start was a bit slow. I wasn't fully hooked until around the Bloody Baron quest, but the rhythm of gameplay started clicking and I was picking up side quests left and right, seeking out monsters to slay, and exploring the incredible open world CD Projekt crafted. Unfortunately, I did start burning out near the end of my time in Novigrad, and by the time I reached Skellig, I felt that I had had my fill. For the time being, I've shelved Witcher 3, but it is a game I immensely enjoyed the time I spent with it. I will likely return to it again. Next, I went through Half-Life 1 and 2 back to back. I will say I rarely do this with sequels. Typically, I like to give a game room to breathe and my palate time to cleanse before jumping into the sequel. This should speak volumes for how much I enjoyed the first game. It was really shocking to me how incredibly well this game has held up. The controls are great, the story and world building is really appealing, and the different scenarios were always a blast. The only exception to this was the final boss, which I won't spoil, but I had a miserable time with it. Regardless, I went into Half-Life 2, and seeing the 6-year jump is amazing to behold. I can't imagine how incredible it must have been at the time to play this game. The graphics look crisp even today, the physics are remarkable, and really everything about this game is just the definition of a classic. Seriously, if you haven't played either of these games, please do yourself a favor and do so. They're considered all-timers for a reason. The end of the year was approaching, temperatures were dropping, and I was now ready to start the game I was most excited to finally play. I have the fewest words to give Outer Wilds, but not for lack of love for the game, but because I don't want to spoil anything for those who have yet to experience it. For those who know, you know. Nearly a year after finishing, I look back on my time with Outer Wilds as one of the most special gaming experiences I've ever had. Every minute was spent discovering insane mysteries, answering questions I'd had for hours. The story, gameplay, sound design, music, art direction, all of it comes together perfectly for one of those rare 10 out of 10 games that just changes your life. I'm not an easy crier, but this is one of the few games that's brought me to tears. If you haven't played Outer Wilds, please save this video to your watch later and come back after you've finished. After the revelatory experience I had with Outer Wilds, I took over a week off from gaming just so I could process. It was hard to decide what to play next, but I ended up playing the DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, one of my favorite games of the past few years. Future Redeemed was incredible. As someone who played Xenoblade on Wii in 2012, I dropped $70 on it because it was a GameStop exclusive in North America for some reason. Future Redeemed was a perfect way to round off the trilogy. This DLC was like Xenoblade distilled into its most pure form. It showcases the Xenoblade gameplay, exploration, and storytelling at its best. I love the 60, 70-hour campaigns of the mainline games, but I wouldn't mind if we got more standalone games along these lines from Monolith Soft in the future. Next was a brief campaign traversing cityscapes in a dystopian future. The first time I saw Mirror's Edge was at a friend's house. He was one of those friends that had everything. I was so jealous that he had a Wii, a 360, and a PS3. He showed me Mirror's Edge on 360, and I played a few missions. 15 years later, I've finally played it all the way through, and I had a really great time. The visual style is still striking to this day, and it generally controls well with just a little bit of jank here and there. The story is kind of throwaway, and combat definitely was not a focus for the developers, but everything else is solid. After the hustle and bustle of Christmas and New Year's passed, I started my next big RPG, Kingdom Come: Deliverance. I had an amazing time with this game. Unlike most RPGs, there's no power trip here. After a slow, difficult start, I began improving mine and Henry's skills. Combat became a little more manageable, I was able to earn modest income, and I had my sleep and hunger under control. This is a hard game. Even by the end of my 70-hour playthrough, I could only handle 2 or 3 foes if I locked in, but any more than that and I'd get destroyed. You have to be careful and strategic. Real-world logic actually applies in the game world more than most games I've played. I'm sure I'm not alone in my experience investigating a horse farm that was attacked by brigands, horses viciously slain. Upon finding a lead, I left the farm to investigate. After returning with news to share with Captain Bernard, he chewed me out for leaving without informing him. I haven't tested it or looked it up, but I'm sure if I had followed the same logic I'd use in real life, I would have reported to the captain before trouncing off and spared myself the earful. I have yet to play KCD2, but I have no doubt it will be as great a time as the original. During January, I also started and got pretty far into Dark Souls 3, a gift from a friend. This is absolutely a game I'll finish one day, but I got sidetracked with other stuff in my life, and after a while away from it, upon returning I was getting destroyed, and I had a hard time remembering where I even needed to go. For now, shelved.
I have no memory of this place.
Next was Wolfenstein: The New Order. FPS games might be my least played genre, and after Half-Life 1 and 2, I wanted to buff up my experience with these games. I quite enjoyed Wolfenstein. The story works, but isn't very interesting, but the gameplay is fun enough to keep it entertaining throughout. After Wolfenstein, I played Ori and the Blind Forest. This was a good game, with amazing visuals and music and solid gameplay. Nothing too mind-blowing, but I did really love the bash mechanic. I'll probably try Will-o'-the-Wisps next year, and I'm excited to see how it evolves the series. February into March, I decided to try Dishonored 2. The original was a favorite of mine, being the first immersive sim I ever played. It was so cool to jump back into this world again as Emily Caldwell. Karnaca was a spectacular setting, and each mission is just as expertly crafted as the first game. I must admit the story wasn't quite as appealing as the original. It felt a little bit like a retread, and Emily wasn't as interesting a character as I'd have liked her to be. This only brought down the experience a little because the gameplay and world are so incredible. I also picked up Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition during this time. I got to around chapter 8, I think, but put it down because honestly I was waiting for a 60 FPS patch for Switch 2. Still no word on that, but I'm in no rush to finish it because I did play the original back when it came out in 2015. Sadly, I've heard the new ending is trash, but I'll be the judge of that when I get to it. Next, I followed with 2 quick games in Sayonara Wild Hearts and Mouthwashing. Each took me about 2 sittings to complete. Sayonara Wild Hearts was quite a great time with awesome music, visuals, and a fun variety of gameplay experiences. Mouthwashing honestly had one of my favorite stories in a game. The way it told its story was interesting, and the characters were all memorable. Its unique visuals also contribute to such a particular feeling that's this mix of uncomfortable and reflective. I really enjoyed this game. Throughout the last bit of winter and beginning of spring, I played through Echoes of the Eye, the Outer Wilds DLC. Again, I don't want to say too much about this, but wow, I will play anything Mobius makes. They have my complete trust now. How they managed to add on to Outer Wilds in such a unique but just as effective way just baffles me. The next month of my life was incredibly busy, so I didn't pick up a game until midway through April. But oh man, what a game this was. Blueprints immediately piqued my interest when I saw comparisons drawn to Outer Wilds. I know now the term Metroidvania is sometimes used to describe this genre. While Outer Wilds and Blueprints don't really have very much in common, Blueprints did evoke some of those same feelings of discovering this huge mystery, unraveling threads of secrets and puzzle solving. The entire game is one intricate puzzle box, and it's just mind-blowing how one person could conceive of this. I put about 40 hours in and put it aside in the in-game, but for those who know this game, you know there's still so much to uncover. I don't know if anybody truly has discovered everything there is to know. I imagine it'll be one of those games that in 10 years someone finds some new detail that changes everything we thought we knew before. I followed up one banger with another in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Yes, these two are new games, so I put the backlog on pause technically, but really if I hadn't played these on launch, they would have gone to the backlog anyway. There's not much I can say about this game that hasn't already been said. Looking back on the time it released, I think a lot of people who haven't played turn-based RPGs were just surprised that they like this game. I do think these people would enjoy more turn-based games than they think they do, but something about the more realistic visuals and the more adult storytelling is appealing, and I get it, I do. However, even if Clair Obscur doesn't do anything brand new or revolutionary, what it does do is so well done that it's still one of my favorite games. The story really just hit me in such a way. The gameplay is crunchy and satisfying, and it's great to see a more linear, old-school RPG like this receive such praise. It's one of those games that makes me hopeful for the future of gaming. After Expedition 33, I took another gaming break to just feel everything this game offered work within me. After a month away, I returned back to Super Mario Odyssey, which I never actually beat. I finished out the last couple worlds and had a great time doing it. Next, I dipped my toes into Blasphemous 2. I played the original back in 2019 or so, and I liked but didn't love it. It felt a little clunky for me, even though the world and aesthetic was so enticing. The sequel pretty much fixed the clunkiness problem for me, and the aesthetics are just as good. The bosses are super satisfying to master, and the world is as fun to explore as in any Metroidvania I've played. I really enjoyed this one. With summer having arrived, I decided to dive into Dave the Diver, a perfect summer game. I liked so much about this game: the vibes, the pixelated art, the chill gameplay loop. Sadly, I found myself getting bored and just wasn't really feeling it. After about 5 hours, I looked at how long to beat and realized I wouldn't be able to push through 25 hours of this. This is when I started realizing it's really okay to put down a game if it's not hitting at that moment. Sometimes that's just how games are. It might not click with you in the season of life that you're at, or you just might not be feeling it that night. It's okay to put it down and try again later, or never. You don't owe the developers or anyone else. Reaching the end credits or 100% completion of a game you're not having fun with is entirely a self-inflicted burden. This is just a hobby, and if you've given a game an honest shot, it's okay to step back from it. Unfortunately, Dave began a trend of me playing games I wasn't really feeling. If I were to overanalyze, I might realize that this was a sign to step away from gaming for a little bit, but I went into my next game with Firewatch, also appropriately summer-themed. I think this is one of those games that I played at the wrong time, or maybe it would have been more impressive a decade ago on release. It just didn't quite do anything for me. The story was kind of just okay, and I was bored by the gameplay. At only 5 hours for completion, I stuck it through to the end, and it's not like I regret playing it, it was just a bit of a middling experience. Maybe I need to try some more walking simulators to decide if it's specifically this game, or the genre as a whole. I'll report back on this. Another game I tried to get into but sadly didn't jive with was BioShock. I know, this game is a classic. I really wanted to like it, but after about 5 hours, I just wasn't having fun. I set it down for the time being. This is absolutely a game I will return to when I'm, more in the mood, but I've learned at this point to respect my time to shelve a game if I'm not having fun. That doesn't mean I can't return to it at a later time when it might resonate more with me. My next game was Donkey Kong Bonanza. I have somewhat mixed feelings on this game. I think it's truly fantastic. The quality is there, the developers clearly loved making this game. However, I feel like a large part of my time was spent wondering if I was playing the quote-unquote correct way. I started off exploring every little nook and cranny, but then as I got to the larger areas, I started following the main path more. This made me feel like I was rushing the experience, so then I'd slow down and explore more. I'd keep cycling between these two ways of playing, but it always felt like the grass was greener on the other side. By the time I got to sublayer 800, I started mainlining it. I got to the end of the experience, having mostly enjoyed it, but not quite at the level I wanted. I didn't feel this way with Mario Odyssey, so it seems like a specific problem with the breakable terrain / non-linearity of Bonanza. This very well could just be a me problem because, as I said, the game itself I feel is phenomenal from a quality perspective. I then went for another short standalone game in Gris, or Greece, not sure how it's pronounced. While the gameplay was simplistic, I thought it was just complex enough to keep the loop interesting for the runtime. The main appeal of these types of games, of course, is the aesthetics, and in this regard the game is top-notch. Next was the long-awaited Hollow Knight Silksong. As a big fan of the original 2017 Metroidvania, I had been eagerly anticipating Silksong for years now, just like many of you. What ensued was a blissful first 15 hours or so. I beat Act 1 with little to no issue. The bosses were incredible, the level design impeccable, and the music is, in my opinion, even better than the first game. This first part of the game was some of the most fun I've had gaming this year, no doubt. Act 2 began strong, but what I found during this part was increasing frustration, mostly with what is seemingly optional content. I won't spoil anything, but there's a particular gauntlet of enemies that almost wore my patience down completely. I managed to squeeze through after about 3 hours of grinding, only to come across a new challenge even more difficult, this time with poison status effects. I had reached my wit's end, and after 30 hours of Silksong, I decided to give it up. I think this was the right decision, as I really wasn't having fun for the last 5 hours of that playtime. I'm okay with challenge, and I've had several games push me to get good, to which I pushed back and overcame. Something about Silksong felt different, however. There were just too many moments that I almost feel like Team Cherry was designing to be intentionally annoying. I might go back after I've had enough space away from it, but for now I'm okay with shelving it. This brings us to October, aka spooky season. Along with FPS games, horror is also a genre I'm not too versed in. For this reason, I chose Alien Isolation as my next game. Oh man, I don't think I was fully prepared for how terrifying this game was. Far and away the scariest game I've ever played. The sound of the xenomorph dropping down from the vents will forever be imprinted on my brain. In fact, this game is a prime example of how effective quality audio design can be. Every sound in this game seems to have been meticulously crafted to create terror. Even up to the end game, the xenomorph remained terrifying. There's apparently a sequel in the works, and if it can even capture half of the atmosphere and sense of dread that Isolation did, it'll definitely be worth a playthrough. While playing Alien, I needed another game in the rotation for those nights when I couldn't handle the intensity. I played through Superliminal over the course of 2 nights, and it was an interesting puzzler, yet somewhat forgettable. Still had a good time. Next, I tried Hi-Fi Rush, a joy of a rhythm-based action game from Tango Gameworks. I immensely enjoyed this game and its quirky sense of humor and stylish action. The only thing lacking is sadly the soundtrack itself, which is largely forgettable. Still, if you have any affinity for rhythm games, I highly recommend this one. Last and most recently, I played through Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Despite the proximity of this game to Alien, I'm actually not a boomer dad, nor do I have any special interest in licensed video games based on 70s and 80s films. I was honestly just trying to play any notable games before my Game Pass expired for good. I overall liked The Great Circle. I think it's not quite to my taste, but from a presentation and gameplay perspective, it's quite good. My highest compliment is that it feels like an indie movie through and through. Smacking fascists with a shovel, breaking a guitar over the head of a lieutenant, rappelling with your whip, exploring ancient tombs and religious sites. All of this just feels right. The story and characters also feel right at home in an Indiana Jones movie. I think my main problem is that I'm just not the biggest indie fan, but for those who are, I imagine this game is a delight. So that just about covers it. I didn't mention every game I tried and put down, but from October 2024 to October 2025, here are my stats. 20 finished, 6 shelved, 2 abandoned. And there you have it. That's my first year of intentionally playing my backlog. Do you have a backlog? Are you trying to beat every game on it, or do you have a different approach? Tell me in the comments what's working for you. If you enjoyed this format of video, please make sure to leave a like. I think my next game will be Chrono Trigger. I might live stream my blind playthrough, so if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.